Well, welcome everyone to day 8 of the BSA Scrambler build. So today we need to get this top end on and get some gearbox stuff in there. So I've got my shed and buried mug of coffee. So let's crack on and do it. So the first thing, I've got a bit of a tip for you. So I was having problems fitting the barrel over the piston, and the rings are really stiff on these. I tried the usual sort of using your thumbs to push it in, but works on a Japanese 2-stroke, doesn't work on an old British thing. So then I did something really stupid. I went on Amazon and thought, oh, one of these will do the job. That'll compress the rings, and didn't realise there's not enough space for it, and yeah, not a good idea. So don't buy one of these. So I've got a bit of an experiment going on. We have a 70mm Jubilee clip. So I'm going to tighten that up and then see if the barrel will go over the piston. Obviously, put oil on the barrel. Let's put oil in on the barrel, on the inner of the liner. Put oil on the piston, and then see if using a Jubilee clip will actually compress the rings so much and be able to fit the piston over the top. Well, that sort of worked. It gave a bit of pressure on the rings, but as they were sliding down, still needed to use a small screwdriver just to keep popping the rings back into the grooves. But it's on there now, and the next bit to look at is the head, because when I first bought this bike, the compression was really low and there was a leak on one of the valves. Now I've since lapped those valves in and I filled it with petrol to make sure that they weren't leaking, and it stayed fine, and suddenly I had a bit of a leak and I was like, what's going on here? So I put some more petrol in it and it was fine again. So I'm going to have to revisit that and just see what was going on with that one. So yep, onto the head, and also I'm going to nail that copper gasket. I'll show you how you do that. You haven't done that already. So it's nice and pliable for when the head goes on and makes a good seal. Put the sub plate on and sub strainer. Now that can only go on one way, so there's like a little hole that you put the oil sort of spigot in. If you line that up and then you find that the screw holes don't line up, just flip the strainer the other way and it'll work. Line up quite nice. Now I've got a little science experiment going on. When I first got this bike, the engine had low compression, and the reason for that was there was a leaking valve or valves. Can't remember, it was one or two. So a while ago I did a bit of lapping and I got a nice sort of circle, nice dull grey circle around the valves. So that should be a good indicator of a good seal. But the way that you can actually test this is set up a head like this, fairly level, get some petrol and then just pour it into the chamber, then see if it leaks out. So we'll leave that for a little while, see if it leaks, come back to it. Hopefully we've got a nice seal. So I left it for a little while and it looks like the exhaust valve is okay and that's not leaking at all. But if we look at the inlet valve, we can see, hopefully there's a bit of a leak. So the inlet valve needs a little bit more work. hopefully we don't have to remove the seat, and try a bit more lapping and see if that fixes it. So that's the valve out. Now I've got all sorts of different sort of spring compressors for valves, but none of them seems to work with these old BSA engines. So this thing, I think they're about £15 on Amazon, and they work an absolute treat on these. Nice and controlled. You can wind the compressor in slowly. It's not one of these sort of trigger things. Because it's threaded, it locks into place, and it just makes a joy of getting rid of the getting the springs, getting the collets off and releasing the springs. And then when you got the collets off, you can just wind it slowly back out again, all nice and controlled. No releasing a lever and all your springs flying everywhere. Another top tip, if you want to see if your valve has been bent and you know, it could be a very slight bend, stick it into a drill, spin, then it'll become very obvious if it's bent or not. And this one is absolutely fine. Also, I've run my fingers up and down the stem, there's no lips or anything like that. So the valve is good. I think we just need a bit more lapping, and as you can see it does have that line, a good nice lap line, but I'll just go over that again and see if we can improve things. To actually do the test again, you're going to have to put all the springs and the collets back and have it under tension. So it's a bit of a faff, but you need to do that test to make sure that you've not got any leak and you've got decent compression. So I've used the grinding paste, coarse end and then fine end, and you can see that ring of sort of dull grey all the way around the valve seat and all the way around the valve as well. They've cleaned it all off with petrol to make sure there's no grinding paste still in there. Obviously if you were running it under load or even just running it, it would cause all sorts of problems in there if it was left in. So I'm going to put it all back together again and see if it still leaks. So after another lap, looks like we have a winner. No leaks, all good. So we're on to the next step, which is to put that head on top of the barrel after annealing that gasket. Okay, now for the head gasket, copper head gasket. First thing you need to do is anneal it at the moment very hard. Annealing it will turn that from hard to soft. So to anneal it, what you do is you heat up so it's like a cherry red colour, and then once you get that sort of cherry red colour, dump it in the water, clean off any sort of black carbon. You'll feel it's actually quite soft. I'll demonstrate that when we get to that point. And then once you've cleaned it all off, stick it in on top of the head. Well, underneath the head, top of the barrel. So here we are with moth torch. Obviously don't burn yourself, use a set of pliers. Try and get the heat on evenly first. Copper's obviously a great sort of transfer of heat, so you don't need to do both sides, one side will do. If you're happy with it, stick it in the water. And obviously leave it to cool down till you sort of grab hold of it again. Once you let it cool down, just make sure it's got all pliable, and then clean off the black carbon with some Scotch-Brite and you're good to go. So now I've got it out the water, you can now see just how soft it's gone compared to what it was like before. So like I say, that's annealed, just need to clean it all off and then ready to put it on the actual barrel. So really just use a blue rag to clean off the water, then on with a bit of red Scotch-Brite. Just see the difference there. What I've done, but nothing too abrasive, just something to get rid of the soot and the scale and carbon that's been created by the heat. Because this is now really soft. That's ready now to go on the barrel. Like so. Now what I am going to do with the copper gasket is I'm going to grease one side of it. This is a recommendation in the Rupert Ratio book, and it allows for movement of the head of the barrel through expansion. Don't really understand what it's about, but if he's recommended it, I'm going to do it. So I'm going to lightly grease just one face. It says in the book just one face, and then put the head on. So the next is just cleaned all around this face as well, and like I say, lightly greased the gasket. So it's a case of just putting this fella on. And then put these two nuts in here first before you actually put the rocker cover on, and then give this a bit of a clean as well. Okay, so I've torqued the head down. Someone in the BSA factory must have a sense of humour. On the B25, 4 of the actual nuts you need to tighten her up are literally under there, just under here. Okay, so it's a pain. So really, yeah, you have to do them by feel, to be honest. Now normally you torque up crossways from each other, so you're not putting pressure on one side or the other. So I've got an old sort of C15 head here. There's 4 bolts on this, 2 there, and then 2 underneath. So when you're torquing down, you want to torque this one a bit, that one a bit, that one a bit, and that one a bit, and then just go around slowly tightening them all up until you get to the correct torque. So they're all torqued down now, and like I say, those ones that are hidden away, it's more by feel. There's two on the other side which are exposed, and you can use them as your torque setting. So the next part is to put these in. Now they do actually look the same height. When you measure them closely, you notice that one is ever so slightly shorter than the other. So one goes in against one of these followers, the other one goes against the other one. So like I said, there's one that's ever so slightly shorter, and that is the one that goes into the inlet. Okay, and the inlet is the one nearest this side. So you just basically put it in there, and then once you're touching that, you know you're on it. Then the exhaust one goes in the back, same thing again. Once you know you're touching, the follower will push down, and then they sort of cross over each other. So the inlet obviously is going over there, and the exhaust is going over to the exhaust side. Onto the rocker box. And so the face of these rocker boxes have never been particularly great, so I'm actually going to use a bit of Hylamar gump on it, just a bit of just run a bit of a thin bead on it, run my finger over it, and just yeah, just to make that contact. And obviously also just checking that the push rods haven't gone for a walk. Back one, front one, so they're still good. So first of all, fit the gasket. So just watch yourself with that gasket, it's really thin, and when you go over the thicker studs, it tries to rip when you're on the actual threads. So I've glooped the metal part of this face, and I've also glooped this as well. I'll just take these covers off because we've got some then we just need to put this on, obviously making sure that the push rods are in the right place. That's the rocker box on now, just need to torque it down. I've had to fit the camshaft in because when I lined up the push rods, they were sort of dropping the followers down, so I need something to stop the followers from falling down. So torque that up, and then put the cover on, and we are ready to put the final drive on and the gearbox on. That's the rocker box on. I haven't changed the gasket for the cover because we will be doing some messing around, I'm sure, when we get the final drive on and the gearbox on with the timing. I've got these fancy side covers, what are they called? Oh, I don't know what they're called. I think I need to do a better colour match than what I've got at the moment, but they do use O-rings, not fibre washers, which is an improvement. So they can go on, and like I say, just ready for the gearbox now and the final drive. I think we'll call it a day for this build, and See you on the next one. As always, like, subscribe, tell your friends, all that kind of thing. All helps the channel. Thanks again for watching.